The tourist thought his status let him do anything. He mocked the royal guardsman, then shockingly bit his hand like a toy. But the guardsman's reaction stunned everyone, turning a joke into a life-changing lesson. What happened next became a viral moment no one saw coming. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We share the untold stories, secrets, and traditions of the British Guards every day. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Jake Randall, a 35-year-old social media junkie with a massive ego and a taste for attention, lands in London with one goal: to create the kind of outrageous, viral content that keeps his followers hooked. For Jake, nothing is off-limits. His strategy? Push people's boundaries, provoke reactions, and capture every humiliating moment on camera. He thrives on controversy and loves being the center of attention. At Buckingham Palace, Jake finds his next victim. Garrett Hastings, a 25-year-old royal guardsman standing stoically at his post. Garrett embodies discipline and tradition, with years of service sharpening his resolve. To Jake, though, Garrett is just another prop in his quest for online fame. The crowd of tourists snapping pictures only fuels Jake's bravado. Jake sets his phone recording and jumps into action. At first, it's harmless pranks, waving his hands inches from Garrett's face, making exaggerated grimaces, and staging a dramatic fall in front of the guard. The tourists chuckle, a few even pulling out their phones to capture the spectacle. But Garrett remains statuesque, his face unmoved, though the slight twitch of his jaw betrays his simmering irritation. Jake, unsatisfied with the lack of reaction, escalates. He closes the distance and, in a move so absurd it's almost surreal, leans in and bites Garrett's hand, a deliberate, calculated act to shock his audience. The reaction is instant and electric. The crowd freezes, gasps rippling through the air like a wave. Garrett takes one decisive step forward, his polished boot striking the ground like a thunderclap. His voice, sharp and commanding, slices through the stunned silence. "Stand back!" His eyes burn with controlled fury, his rigid stance still exuding an aura of authority. The tourists' laughter vanishes, replaced by a charged tension. Jake's smirk falters, the weight of his actions sinking in. Phones lower, the crowd holds its breath, and for the first time Jake realizes he may have pushed too far. Despite the sharp, throbbing pain radiating from his bitten hand, Garrett Hastings stands firm, refusing to let his composure waver. Years of training have prepared him for moments like this. Moments where self-control must triumph over instinct. Ignoring the crowd's murmurs and Jake Randall's smug, nervous laughter, Garrett makes a crisp signal to nearby security personnel. The command is swift, efficient, and final. Jake, confident in his ability to charm or joke his way out of trouble, keeps up his cocky facade. To him, this is just another stunt, one that might even elevate his fame. But the tide of public opinion is already shifting. The murmurs from the crowd grow louder, tinged with disapproval. Phones that once filmed in amusement now capture Jake's humiliation. Within moments, police arrive and place him in handcuffs. The cheers he had hoped for are replaced by scattered, contemptuous whispers. Jake is escorted from the scene, still clinging to his delusion of invulnerability. However, reality comes crashing down as he's processed and placed in a cold, sterile holding cell. Alone, without his phone or audience, Jake feels the weight of his actions pressing on him for the first time. The charge is serious, assaulting a serviceman. His lawyer spells it out plainly. This isn't a prank. It's a criminal offense. The video he recorded, intended to boost his online clout, is now evidence against him. The lawyer advises an apology, a path to damage control. But Jake waves it off, clinging to the belief that his notoriety will shield him. Meanwhile, Garrett returns to his barracks, his hand bandaged, but his pride deeply bruised. The physical pain is secondary to the humiliation of being reduced to a prop for someone's entertainment. Sitting across from his commanding officer, he vents his frustration about being ridiculed while simply fulfilling his duty. His superior listens intently before replying. "What you did today showed discipline and strength. The world will recognize that." Garrett nods, still unsure if the world truly respects what his uniform represents, but determined to stand tall regardless. Jake's video, once intended to be his next viral hit, spreads like wildfire across social media, but for all the wrong reasons. Instead of laughter and likes, the footage ignites a storm of outrage. Viewers worldwide are appalled by his brazen disrespect toward Garrett Hastings, the royal guardsman who displayed unyielding professionalism despite the provocation. Comments flood in, condemning Jake's actions as an egregious display of entitlement and ignorance. Hashtags like #respect, the guard, and #standwithgarrett begin trending, uniting people from all walks of life in defense of the guardsman. The video takes on a life of its own, and as its reach grows, so does the backlash. Jake's sponsors, eager to distance themselves from the scandal, sever their contracts. His follower count nosedives as fans turn on him, labeling him a symbol of everything wrong with influencer culture. What Jake had once thought would elevate his status has now left him disgraced. The mounting pressure of legal fees, public scorn, and a shattered reputation forces him to reconsider his stance. Reluctantly, he agrees to issue a public apology, though it is more a desperate bid for damage control than genuine remorse. Meanwhile, in the quiet of the barracks, Garrett begins to understand the impact of his restraint that day. His fellow guardsmen praise his composure, reminding him that his ability to rise above such provocation reflects the dignity of their service. Messages from strangers flood in, thanking him for his professionalism and courage in representing not just the Royal Guard, but a sense of honor that resonates globally. Each note of support strengthens his resolve, helping him move past the humiliation of the incident. While Garrett remains shaken by the events, he starts to feel a renewed sense of purpose. The ordeal, though painful, has reminded him why he chose this path: to embody resilience and integrity, even under the most trying circumstances. And now, thanks to the overwhelming support, he knows the world sees that too. Under the weight of mounting pressure, Jake Randall appears at a carefully orchestrated public event, his once defiant confidence replaced by visible unease. Cameras flash as he steps up to the podium, his hands trembling slightly. Jake begins his apology, his voice faltering but earnest. "I acted selfishly and without thinking," he admits, his tone carrying the weight of his misjudgment. "I disrespected not just Garrett Hastings, but an entire tradition and those who dedicate their lives to it. I've learned the hard way that actions have consequences." The crowd listens in silence, their expressions unreadable. Jake's usual bravado is gone, replaced by a man forced to confront the fallout of his actions. As he speaks, his gaze briefly flickers to Garrett Hastings, the royal guardsman whose unwavering dignity he had so brazenly challenged. Garrett stands off to the side, his uniform immaculate, his expression calm but unreadable. When Jake finishes, Garrett steps forward. The air grows still, the audience waiting to hear his response. His presence commands respect, and his voice is steady and measured. "I accept your apology," he begins, his tone leaving no room for doubt about his sincerity. "But respect is not a performance. It's a value we should all uphold, no matter where we are or who we think we are." The room is silent for a moment, the weight of Garrett's words sinking in. Then applause breaks out. Not for Jake, but for the guardsman who exemplified grace under pressure. Cameras capture every moment, and within hours, clips of the exchange flood the internet.
This time, however, the narrative isn't about Jake's antics or his fall from grace. It's about Garrett, his resilience, professionalism, and quiet strength in the face of disrespect. The story ends with a striking image. Garrett back on duty at Buckingham Palace, standing tall and composed. The crowd now watches him with reverence, not ridicule, as if seeing the role he plays and the values he represents for the first time. Integrity, it seems, has prevailed.
If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and let us know in the comments which guard tradition you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.